David Beckham has finally addressed the situation, but not in the way many people expected. Just one day after Brooklyn Beckham shared a deeply personal Instagram message about his parents, David appeared on live television and made a statement that seemed calm on the surface, yet carried a much deeper meaning underneath. He didn't deny anything directly. He didn't name names. But what he did say about his children, social media, and mistakes may be the clearest response we're going to get, at least for now. And once you hear the full context, the timing of his words becomes impossible to ignore. The post that changed everything. On January 19, Brooklyn Beckham posted a series of Instagram stories that immediately caught global attention. In those posts, Brooklyn accused his parents, David and Victoria Beckham, of behavior that he says deeply affected his relationship with his wife, actress Nicola Peltz Beckham. According to Brooklyn, the situation had been ongoing for years, largely kept private until now. He stated that he felt forced to speak publicly after what he described as repeated media narratives that, in his view, did not reflect his truth. Using careful but emotional language, Brooklyn said he was standing up for himself for the first time and made it clear that he did not currently want reconciliation. The posts quickly sparked widespread discussion, not only because of the accusations themselves, but because of who was involved. One of the most high-profile families in modern pop culture. And then, something unexpected happened. David Beckham's public appearance and the timing. Less than 24 hours later, David Beckham appeared on CNBC's Squawk Box. On paper, the interview had nothing to do with family drama. The topic was social media. The focus was mental health, responsibility, and digital platforms. The setting was professional, measured, and global. But as the conversation continued, David brought up his children. And that's where everything shifted. Without referencing Brooklyn by name or addressing the Instagram posts directly, David said something that immediately stood out. He said his children have made mistakes on social media. Then he added something even more telling. Children are allowed to make mistakes. David explained that he has always spoken openly about the power of social media, both positive and negative. He talked about how it can be dangerous for young people, but also how it can be used responsibly, especially when guided with education and intention. Then he said this: "They make mistakes, but children are allowed to make mistakes. That is how they learn." He continued, "Sometimes you have to let them make those mistakes as well." These words were calm. They were measured. They were not confrontational. But in context, they carried significant weight. Because while David didn't challenge Brooklyn's claims publicly, he also didn't validate them. Instead, he reframed the moment. What David did and didn't say. David did not accuse Brooklyn of lying. He did not defend himself or Victoria directly. He did not escalate the situation. But he also did not apologize publicly. He did not acknowledge specific allegations. And he did not confirm any details from Brooklyn's post. Instead, he positioned the situation within a broader philosophy: parenting, learning, and growth. To some viewers, this came across as compassion. To others, it felt like distance. And to many, it raised an important question. Was this a response or a refusal to engage? Why this approach matters. Public family disputes are nothing new. But when they involve globally recognized figures, every word and every omission is amplified. David Beckham has spent decades carefully managing his public image, not just as an athlete, but as a father, ambassador, and global brand. His decision to address social media in general terms, rather than respond emotionally or directly, aligns with that long-standing approach. According to publicly available information, David has consistently emphasized privacy when it comes to family matters. And yet, the fact that he spoke at all, so soon after Brooklyn's post, suggests that he was aware of how his words would be interpreted. The broader family context. Brooklyn is the oldest of 4 children. Over the past several years, fans and media outlets have speculated about tension between Brooklyn, Nicola, and the rest of the Beckham family, particularly around major life events like weddings, birthdays, and public appearances. Sources close to the situation have told People magazine that both sides feel hurt, and that attempts at reconciliation have reportedly been made. Other sources have emphasized that David and Victoria deeply love their children and remain open to repairing the relationship. At the same time, Brooklyn has publicly stated that he feels his concerns were not addressed privately, leading him to speak out. It's a complex situation, one where multiple perspectives exist, and where much of the truth likely remains behind closed doors. Social media, tool or trigger. One of the most interesting aspects of David's comments is how strongly he focused on social media itself. He spoke about its ability to raise awareness, referencing his work with UNICEF and global causes. But he also acknowledged its risks, especially for younger users. This framing subtly shifts the conversation away from blame and toward impact. Instead of debating who is right or wrong, David's comments invite a different discussion. What happens when deeply personal family issues are processed in public, through platforms designed for visibility rather than resolution? That question doesn't have an easy answer. Why people are divided. Public reaction has been mixed. Some viewers see David's words as mature and restrained, an attempt to avoid adding fuel to an already emotional situation. Others feel that the lack of direct acknowledgement could deepen the divide, especially when one side has already spoken openly. What's clear is that this is no longer just a private family disagreement. It's a public conversation about boundaries, communication, and generational differences, played out in real time. And that's why so many people are paying attention. What happens next is unclear. As of now, Brooklyn has not responded to David's comments. David and Victoria's representatives have not issued additional statements. And sources continue to emphasize that the situation is still evolving. Reconciliation may happen privately, or it may take time, or it may require distance before dialogue can resume. What's certain is that this moment has changed how the story is being told. At its core, this isn't just a story about a famous family. It's about how conflict, communication, and personal boundaries look in the age of constant visibility. David Beckham chose restraint. Brooklyn Beckham chose openness. Neither approach is simple, and neither guarantees resolution. The bigger question now isn't who speaks next. It's whether this conversation eventually moves away from social media and back into private space, where healing usually begins. And if it does, what will that look like for a family whose lives have always unfolded in the public eye? In the next video, we'll take a closer look at how celebrity families navigate conflict differently, and why public silence can sometimes speak louder than any statement. If you want to understand the deeper dynamics behind moments like this, that's where we're going next.